Hi, everybody. This is Jack Alwell for another Money episode. Today, we have the third episode in the International Personal Finance mini-series with Finn Odgaard. He's at Finn Odgaard on Twitter. If you haven't seen the first two episodes, we had Faisal Al-Kharaz from Jordan on and the globe-trotting investor himself, Ben Tan from Singapore. So go check those out if you haven't seen them already. And with that, Finn, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So one common theme we've seen, this is mostly catering to Americans, but our prices have been going up and people want to know what it's like living in other countries. And I think the biggest line item for most people around the world is housing. So what does housing look like in the Netherlands?
Housing, yeah, we're starting with the worst part of it all. So yeah, let's dig in. Housing, yeah. In the Netherlands, we have a pretty huge housing shortage. At the moment, I think there are about 18 million people living here, and we have about 400,000, a shortage of 400,000 houses, I guess. So yeah, as you can imagine, that drives the prices of rents. It drives the price of rents up, but also housing prices. So yeah, for me personally, and for other people I speak, I think about 50% of our takeaway pay goes to housing,
Wow.
electricity, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty big chunk of our expendable income. Yeah.
What about in terms of, your cohort rent versus own? Are most of you renters right now?
Yeah, we're forced renters right now. I
Uh-huh.
think I am 29 years old. So people aged between 20, 30, I think that cohort is having a tough time entering the buying market. So yeah, we're forced to rent at the moment. Yeah, so that's a pretty big theme here in Holland. It's a small country with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it's pretty bad if you ask me here.
Yeah. I guess for our listeners, I just heard that in America, there's about a 7 million unit shortage here, just for reference. And one thing I found out recently is that the 30-year fixed mortgage is kind of an American thing. I heard, Britain, typically it's 3 to 5 years fixed rate, and then it switches to a variable rate. How do mortgages, if you know, work in the
Yeah.
Netherlands?
Pretty much the same, I think.
Okay.
We have variable mortgages, but we also have 5 year, 10 year, 20 year, 30 year, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's pretty much the same as with you guys. The longer the period is, the higher the interest
Interest
rate.
rate.
Yeah. So no, we have the same choices as you have.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to transportation. So everyone, I think, I mean, I have not been to the Netherlands, but I always have these images of these, traffic circles with tons and tons of bikers.
Yeah.
So what's the
It's
transportation?
true. It's true. It's true. Yeah, I think there are like four bikes for every one citizen or something like that. I've once read a crazy statistic like that. But yeah, transportation. The car is the number one method of transportation, of course. Even though we do have a pretty good public transport system, it is getting well, it's getting a little worse if you ask me. There are train stations disappearing or bus stations. So especially in the more rural areas, it's getting harder and harder to use public transport. And it's pretty expensive. So it's cheaper to transport yourself using a car than it's using a bus or a train, for example.
Really
Yeah, yeah,
cheap?
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, just to prepare for this talk, I've calculated one trip from Groningen. That's how we pronounce it. It's a city in the north of the Netherlands. If you take a train to Amsterdam, it will take you about 2 hours to do it, and it will cost you about 30 euros.
Okay.
And if I go with my car, well, it's also taking me about 2 hours. And yeah, it's 180 kilometers. I don't know if the metric
Hmm.
or what system you're using,
Yeah.
but trust me that it's cheaper to go by car, and you have the added flexibility, and it's pretty much the same time. So yeah, I
Are
prefer to use the
there
car.
are for the public transportation, do you like I don't know, is there like a card you have, like a monthly, almost like subscription, or a monthly rate for the public transportation that you have
Yeah,
to pay?
yeah, well, there's different types of subscription you can use. Yeah, we have that's maybe also that's maybe unique for the Netherlands. We have the railroads are owned by a company. It's one
Okay.
company who owns the entirety of all the railroads in the Netherlands, and then we have a couple of transportation companies who own the trains, for example, who ride on the rails. And yeah, for certain companies you can get a subscription for a certain line. So maybe from Amsterdam, if you travel from Amsterdam to Groningen every day, you can get a subscription for that specific line, but you can also get an unlimited subscription, so you can do whatever you want in the Netherlands. But yeah, the prices are pretty steep. The more things you want, the higher the cost, of course. But it's a pretty big chunk of money, if you ask me. Yeah.
And what is the price per liter right now that you're roughly seeing for gas?
About two euros. I'm
Two
not sure what the
euros.
dollar amount is. Let me.
Oh, okay. So I just did it's like, wow, over $8, $8 a gallon. Wow. Okay. That is
Oh well, I maybe have to because it's yeah, a liter. Yeah, a liter. Yeah, sorry, I
yep.
was
Yep.
mixing it up. So
Wow.
2 euros a liter. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
pretty expensive. And
Uh-huh.
the fun thing is, I'm not sure about the percentage, but I think that about 60% or something is taxes in the Netherlands
Okay.
on the gas. So the gas itself isn't that expensive, but we make it expensive.
So Ben Tan in Singapore was saying that they basically charge you like a license fee to have a car, just the ability to have a car. And this amount is insane. It was like $90,000 just that's not even the car. It's just the license that says you have the ability to get a car. So
Yeah.
is there anything like startup costs in the Netherlands to get a car?
Yeah, there are two fixed costs that you have when you own a car. The first one is you have to insure it.
Okay.
That's mandatory. I think that's the same in America. And the other thing is, yeah, we call it. Well, I won't bother you with the Dutch weird word, but it's like a tax to drive on the roads. So they use
Okay.
the money to do the road upkeep and everything like that. But you also pay it if you don't drive your car. As long as your car is eligible, I think that's the word, to drive on the roads, then you have to pay it. So it doesn't matter if it stays on your parking lot for the entire year, you just pay it fixed. Yeah, so we have the same thing. But over here it's well, it's not that much. It depends on the weight of your car. The heavier it is, the higher the amount. The thing behind it is that you cause more damage to the road if your car's more heavier.
Okay.
But for me, I have a pretty small car in the lightest weight category, and it's like 20 euros a month or something. It's not that
Okay.
much.
And what about for the insurance piece? How much is that per month roughly?
About 30 euros, I think. So
Okay. Okay.
those expenses are pretty okay.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Okay. What have you seen in terms of food prices lately?
Lately, yeah, they've risen a lot there, of course. Yeah, some things are. I was just talking to my girlfriend the other day. We often get a bag of carrots from the store, a kilogram. It's we get a kilogram of carrots, and they used to be like 70 cents or something, and they're now one euro and 20 cents.
Wow.
So that's almost a doubling in price. So not saying that everything doubled, but yeah, we can for sure see price increases in the Netherlands as well. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
You're also hearing it in the news that a lot more people, are depending on government aid and stuff like that to get food or it's not. We have a pretty good wealth or care system. I'm looking for the correct word. The strong shoulders carrying the weak. So we have all kinds of programs and things over here to carry people who are having a bit of a setback or who are having a difficult time. But yeah, you've heard it in the news over the last couple of years that more and more people are using those things as well. Yeah.
So I think you said like around 50% goes to housing typically.
Yeah.
What
housing,
percentage?
electricity. Yeah.
What percentage would you say is going towards food?
Well,
At least for you.
For me, it isn't that bad because
Okay.
my girlfriend and I we're pretty cheap when
Okay.
it comes to this. Not like that we don't buy good food or anything, but we're only drinking water from. We're only drinking tap water, for example. Over here in the Netherlands, tap water is fine. So, but like percentage-wise, maybe 10%.
Okay.
But that's just grocery shopping, so that doesn't include bars, restaurants, whatever.
Gotcha. How about healthcare? Healthcare is a huge topic in America.
Yeah.
Prices are quite high for a lot of people. It really pinches people. How is your healthcare funded?
Well, this also shows that we have a pretty good care system, or the word I can't come up with. We have two types of insurances when it comes to healthcare. We have a universal, yeah, it is universal, but we have a mandatory insurance. So every citizen in the Netherlands has to have a basic insurance.
Okay.
That's for everyone. So when you make a visit to your doctor, dentist, whatever, most of the times that's covered by your basic insurance, the mandatory one. But whenever you have specialized needs or something exceeds, like normally you have like 5 visits to a physiotherapist or something, that's covered by your basic insurance. But from the 6th visit, you have to either pay it yourself, or you can use the other type of insurance that's an additional insurance is literally called. So you can pay more money to insure yourself better.
Okay.
So we have, like I said, we have the mandatory insurance and the additional one. And for the mandatory one, most of the cost is paid by our government. But you can choose. That makes it a little bit more complicated. You have your own risk. That's what we call it within the mandatory insurance. And it varies from 385 euros, that's the lowest you can go, up until 885 euros.
Is that per year?
Yeah, per year. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that much.
Okay.
So if you have to make any costs that's covered by your mandatory insurance, you first have to pay your own risk. So up until the amount that you've insured yourself for, and all costs after that are paid through the government.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they pay that through taxes and everything that they collect.
Yeah. For the American listeners, we're probably calling that a deductible.
Probably.
So the additional insurance, do you pay for additional insurance?
No, I don't. No,
Okay.
I also have the highest own risk.
Okay.
I barely visit the doctor. So for me, the higher the risk you take, the lower your monthly fee is. So for me, it makes sense to do it. My girlfriend, for example, every year she pays her own risk in full. So she just keeps it as low as possible. So if you're into personal finance, you can tweak it a little to maximize your gains or minimize your expenditure. So yeah, it's a cool thing.
Okay. How about pensions?
Pensions, yeah. Well, I think this is pretty similar to America. We have a pension that's built out of 3 pillars or cornerstones or whatever you call it. We have something the government pays you. So the first pillar is some sort of basic income, which you accumulate over every year that you are a citizen of the Netherlands. I think it's 2% or something. So after 50 years, you've gathered 100%. So 2 years for every year, 2% for every year times 50. And that is, I think, like 800 euros a month or something net.
Okay.
That's what the government pays you if you live in the Netherlands. It doesn't matter if you have worked or whatever, everyone gets it. Every citizen gets that. Okay. Then you have the second cornerstone is pension through work. So if you work, your employer has to, there are all kinds of laws for that they have to pay for your pension. They have to put a little piece of your monthly income aside for your pension. That's a pillar. And the third one is the personal investments or the things you put to the side for yourself. So like investing in an S&P 500 or something. So that's our pension. But what's a big difference, by the way, in the last pillar, I've read that in America, when you're making gains on your investments, those are taxed, right?
If you were to like buy a stock and it were to go up and sell it, you would incur a capital gain and you would pay taxes on that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Well, with in the Netherlands, that's not the case at all. You don't pay any capital gains tax or something.
Really?
Yeah, maybe I don't know if it fits the program, but our tax system is also built out of three pillars. And the third one is the money you own. I'm looking for the correct word in English. So if you own a house, for example, or you have more than 40,000 euros invested, that goes into the third pillar. And you only pay taxes on your investments if they exceed a certain amount. So I think it's 35,000 euros right now.
Okay.
So as long as my investments are beneath that amount, I don't pay a euro of taxes on that amount, on that investment, no matter if it goes up or down or whatever.
So sorry. So is that even if you don't sell, are you get
Yeah, it doesn't
really?
matter. Yeah, it
So
doesn't matter at all.
oh, so that would be like getting taxed on an unrealized gain or loss.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah.
So okay, so I think we would probably call that like I think a lot of people are calling that like a wealth tax where you're just taxed on your
Yeah, it
assets.
is. It's literally
Okay.
a wealth tax. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone who's having assets with a total value of more than 35,000 euros at the 1st of January of every calendar year. So they look at all your belongings at the 1st of January. You have to fill in a huge report where you hand over all your information and give everything to the IRS or whatever it's called.
Wow.
And they calculate what you own. They calculate how much you have to pay for that, the wealth tax, literally. Yeah.
Man, that's
But yeah, that's pretty
that's
different, I think.
that's insane. I mean, that would be it seems to me like that would be an accounting nightmare. Like how
Yeah, a lot of
so
people are struggling with it every
uh-huh.
year to hand over everything.
Yeah, because you might have a lot of assets, but you might not have a lot of cash. So then if you get this tax bill that said, if you had a couple rental properties, let's say, but you just had a big maintenance expense for fixing something, and then you get taxed on the asset, but you don't have the cash, I could see
Yeah.
that being very stressful.
Yeah, and it's been a huge debate over the last years in the Netherlands if we should tax real gains or
Unrealized.
yeah, exactly,
Yep.
the
Yep.
unrealized gains. But for now, this is what it is. Yeah, but
Wow.
a lot of people are using it in their favor as well because you have deductions as well. So, for example, if you invest in green investments or you have liabilities, you can not add, but what's the opposite? Remove.
Subtract. So,
Yeah,
yep. Yep.
subtract. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So, for example, I have a 60,000 euro student debt. I can subtract that from my assets. So I can
Okay.
own almost up to 100,000 euros in assets, subtract my 60,000
I
euros,
see.
and then be left with 40,000 and almost pay no tax. So yeah, it's a
Very
complicated system.
interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So speaking of student loan debt, student loans are a huge issue in
Yeah,
America. What
they
is
are.
the culture around student loans in the Netherlands?
Yeah, it's way different as well. I'm realizing that I'm coming back and back and back to the fact that the government is paying a lot over here. For example, I've studied in university and I had to pay around 2,000 euros a year
Okay.
for my 3-year bachelor's degree. So if I would have finished it in 3 years, it would have cost me 6,000 euros. So like 8,000 American dollars, I guess, something like that. And the government just pays the rest. So it's heavily subsidized by the government.
Okay. So
Yeah,
so how did you get up to six? Did you say 60 or 16?
60, unfortunately.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. So how did you get that much student loan debt?
Well, for one, first of all, I've studied a long time, so I've changed studies. I wasn't a perfect student, let's say that. So I've spent like 9 years studying times two and a half. And the thing as well is you can get you have a couple of different loans, student loans. You can get the one to pay your college tuition. That's the 2,000 to 2,500 I was talking about. But you can also get a little more on the side to pay for your housing and everything. So there are also different components to a student loan over here. And I was stupid enough to take the max of everything and take a couple of years. So yeah, then you end up with a pretty large student debt. Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. How about credit cards? Credit cards are also a big deal. I was just before we started talking, I looked up what the credit card debt is in America, and
the average,
it was almost $990 billion in credit card debt. And if I looked at how many people are under 18 years old, they basically came out to almost 4,000 per person. And that's just, yeah. So that's, I mean, that actually didn't sound like that much to me when I did it out, but what's the culture around credit cards?
Yeah, it's way different over here. It isn't used that much. That's the weird thing. Whenever I see Americans or talk to them, they always use a credit card, and the credit score, of course, is a huge theme. But over here, we don't have a credit score, for example. It just doesn't exist. So I think that's the reason why we're not using credit cards as much. There's not really a reason to use it. We only use a debit card. I think maybe 50 to 60% of the people here have a credit card.
Okay.
So only half of the inhabitants own one. So yeah, it's not really a theme here. Maybe it's cultural as well. I think Dutch people are really down to earth and they don't spend what they don't have. So using credit feels a little weird. So yeah.
So here's a question. So you said you don't have a credit score. So when you're looking to get a house, what types of documents or what types of things are they looking at to give you a loan?
Yeah, well, we don't have a credit score, but we do have, what is it called? It's a government organization that's called the Bureau of Credit Registration.
Okay.
And they don't calculate a score. It's just simply a yes or a no, like a cross or a tick.
Okay.
Whenever you have credit, so if you buy a car and you don't pay it in full, but you use a payment plan or anything, and you miss one payment, for example, you're getting a cross in the Bureau of Registration, credit registration list. And that's called a negative registration, obviously. So you have, for example, whenever you apply for a mortgage, you have to hand over a certification or a document from the Bureau of Credit Registration that shows that, either you always paying nicely, so there won't be a registration, or there will be one, and that means that, once or more, you missed the payment. Besides that, of course, you have to hand over income details, debt details, stuff like that. Yeah, I think the same documents as in America.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no credit score or anything, so interest rates are the same for anyone. It doesn't get differentiated based on credit score or anything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different banks do have different interest rates, so it might be smart to check all the banks. But you and I, we would get the same interest rate at the same bank in the Netherlands. Yeah.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, just personally, what are your favorite cities to visit in the Netherlands?
Well, I'm a bit of a country guy, I guess.
Okay.
If I would have lived in America, I probably would have been the more slow or states. So the more rural areas. So I'm not really a big city guy, to be honest. More of a country guy. But I love Groningen. Yeah, that's a city in the north. It feels like a village. So that's why it resonates with me, I guess. Yeah, and there are like Maastricht. I don't know if it says anything to you. It's in the south of the Netherlands. It's really it looks good. But yeah, to be honest, and this is maybe not the answer that fellow Dutchies like to hear. But I prefer other cities in other countries, like Vienna or something.
Man, my wife would be touched by that. She's a Vienna girl.
Yeah, well, I loved it. So.
And speaking of cities, we've been hearing news around these, and I think it's out of the Netherlands, like these 15-minute cities. Yeah. Basically this idea that they're, creating these areas that you don't really need to travel very far out of, and they're basically self-contained. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it's pretty much an idea still. It's a concept.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, since the Netherlands is so small and we're so heavily populated, you automatically become sort of a 15-minute country. So we have grocery stores on the corner of every street, gas stations. So yeah, there's just not that much distance between cities and between it's really dense.
Mhm.
So you automatically get 15-minute concepts even when you're not trying. But yeah, I've heard about it. It's also a pretty controversial theme here because the WEF gets is maybe in the picture and people think whatever they think about that. So it's been a theme, but it hasn't really been deployed on any city, or I
Mhm.
can't say to you like this is a 15-minute city or that is a 15-minute city. No,
Gotcha.
still a concept. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it would be interesting to get a Dutch view on if someone were to ask you what's the best and worst personal finance advice you've either heard or received, what would you say?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm having the Dutch perspective, but I can give you mine. Can give you mine. Well, the best advice, I think it's a little cliche, but I think the best personal finance advice is to invest in yourself, in the forms of schooling, coaching, therapy, whatever. I think it not only rewards you with money, but it rewards you with way more than that if you do it the right way. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm a little bit of a holistic guy, so for me, there's more than money in life. So an investment in yourself, I think, would be the best advice wherever you are on earth. And the worst, if I recall correctly, you also asked me what the worst piece of advice is. I think it's to take the conventional path, to get a job, go to school, get a job, save a lot. Saving has been, well, it hasn't been the best strategy, I think, for getting wealthy or improving your personal finance. So the best personal advice I've got was to leave the traditional path and to find
Awesome.
wealth somewhere else. Yeah.
Awesome. Well said. Okay, well, Finn, it's been great chatting with you. Why don't you tell the listeners where they can go learn more about you or get in touch with you?
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I just started out on Twitter on @Finn Odgaard. So yeah, you can find me over there, and I'm tweeting about well, what I've encountered in my life, and I'm trying to help people find out their dreams and help them realize that.
Awesome. Great. It's been great chatting with you, Finn.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise.
Yep.